is Ruel's Running Podcast, a podcast about running, health, family, play, and an NSNG lifestyle. And now, here's your host, Ruel.
Excuse me as I rock on. That's Went Away by Dorothy Lane. Dorothy Lane out of Martinez, California. That's out of the Cut and Dry album. Check them out at dorothylanemusic.com. Yeah. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Hey everybody, it's Ruel. How's it going? Welcome to another episode of the ever-roving Ruel's Running Podcast. Yep, I'm Ruel Abadam. Something's going on with my throat. I think I may be coming down with something, or I have something. You want it? You can have it. It's the, I don't know. I'm dealing with something. So that's health chat for you. Ruel sick, everybody. Boo. Boo. Sun is shining though. It's a great day to be sick. Yeah, I don't know. This is, it's weird. A couple nights ago, I woke up in the middle of the night with a slight shortness of breath, and it was hard for me to settle down back into sleep. I was uncomfortable and all that, and I sort of was just figuring out. It didn't hit me at first, but then eventually I realized, like, wait a minute, I can't hold on to a deep breath. And it was sort of like I would attempt a deep breath and then relax my diaphragm, and I would just sort of expel that as quickly as I came in. It just didn't seem right. Then I realized, oh, okay, I might be dealing with a little bit of a bronchitis of some sort. And I had on my bedside in the drawer an inhaler, because there were at least a couple other times in the past where I had some really bad shortness of breath situations in my sleep, or that woke me up from my sleep, and that's how I got a hold of this inhaler. So just for moments like that, I pulled it out of the drawer and give myself a couple pumps, and lo and behold, I was able to relieve myself and get myself back to breathing as normal as possible. So I was like, what the heck's going on here? I don't know what that was all about. And I don't know if it was an allergic reaction to something, or if it was some post-nasal stuff that was kind of causing some irritation in my lungs. I don't know. But, yeah. And then, speaking of allergies, I've been dealing with a bunch of really irritated eyes, so I don't know. And it was annoying so much that I figured I'm just going to treat myself like I have pink eye, right? And I took out my drops that I would use for pink eye and put them on, and didn't think anything of it. But the next day when I put those eye drops on, they kind of irritated my eyes a bit more, and then I realized, oh, it's after the drops where I really am struggling with my eyes. So, stop that, and now I'm just like taking a Zyrtec and just going with that. But yeah, woke up with a sore neck. I don't know if it's tied to everything else, or if it's just I slept with my head position wrong. So yeah, got all sorts of problems. So that's why I'm talking to you guys, letting you in on my woes. Yeah. So man, a lot of exciting things have happened in the past couple of days, and I wanted to do this recording earlier, but didn't have the chance. So here I am. Yeah. So the family and my family, we attended a obstacle course challenge for the kids. My boys were signed up, and it's an event we did last year. The location was different this year. At least the event location that we chose was different. And it's an obstacle course challenge. It was a short course. It was about 2 miles. And I don't know, there may be like a dozen obstacles on the course for the kids. This year I made the decision to not really do any of the obstacles and focus on just capturing video and pictures of the kids doing their thing. And it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad that I did for 2 reasons. One, I just wasn't muddy as heck and have to deal with getting myself cleaned up, And 2 was that, a lot of good memories were captured on video, so pretty happy about that. And there was one other thing. For the life of me, I can't remember. That's I'm going to attribute that to me dealing with whatever I'm dealing with. I'm dying, folks. Speaking of dying, and now I'm going to get serious, it is one of the things I wanted to talk about, but not the fun and exciting things that I do with the family, but what I also, in addition to doing some fun stuff with the family, I did get some sad news about a friend from high school passed away, and that's pretty saddening. We went to high school together. He's 2 years older than me. He was more of my older brother. My brother's graduating class, and we all at some point in high school we kind of revolved around the same circle of friends. We were teammates in cross country and soccer, if I'm not mistaken, soccer, yeah. But and we hung out at each other's homes. We attended many parties together, and his presence definitely contributed to my life. When I was younger, and like a lot of us do, is we drift apart, in friendships and relationships in different stages of our lives. High school, everyone in high school, practically everyone's doing their own thing. I mean, everyone's doing their own thing. There's no doubt about it. And the decades roll on, but things like Facebook allow us to sort of get tuned into some of the stuff that's going on, and that's how I found out about my friend's passing. And it's an interesting thing because we were out of touch for a long time, and we all did our own thing, and I didn't miss hanging out with him, and I'm sure he didn't have a second thought about me. But because of the past, and because he's no longer around, it's weird how that impacts. There's a sense of like losing a part of me, or maybe it's more like losing a part of my former me. And when you think back at your younger years, it's in a time capsule, and everything's in its little place, and it fits in all the little personalities and places. And sometimes you get to go back to the places or the setting of your past and realize it no longer is the same. The town, the buildings, the landmarks, and it's sort of like, you kind of lost a little bit of how your former self is, I guess, captured in memory because of that. Because you may have thought that it would always be there, because in your mind it's always there. And it's even more so with people that you had spent your time with. So having a friend from high school pass away, knowing now that he's no longer on this world, this planet, or living and breathing and doing whatever he used to do, it's a little part of me, my past self has lost something, and it impacts who I am at this moment, because it's gone. He's gone. And there's and I know that the older I get, the more and more of those situations are going to happen. And for the past several years, that has happened with other folks I've been close friends with, and what's kind of sad is that sometimes when there's a loss like this, you feel like you got to make every extra effort to express and tell those folks that are still around that you care for them, you appreciate them, and you just do that before the opportunity is gone. And sometimes it is what it is, and you don't worry about that. You just sort of go on. So yeah, that has bugged me for the past 2-3 days. And at first it was sort of, the first thought was like, oh, okay, so-and-so's gone, he's passed away, but no one says what the situation was. Just because sometimes you just need to know. Turned out from what word I got, he passed away from a heart attack, and it's like, wow, we're already there? Are we already there? Me and friends from high school, we're at that point where we gotta be thinking about falling victim to a heart attack. Yeah, so that's that. Trying to now want to transition out of that, and I just wanted to share that. The other thing that we got to do as a family, there's this oh my god, I'm just scouring through pictures of my phone, and my son's participating in this safety patrol, sort of small group of students who participate in holding up stop signs and stuff for people who want to cross the street and all that good stuff. So I have pictures of my son wearing his super bright fluorescent yellow gear, holding the stop sign. Anyways, so the other thing that we did was it's a May the 4th event in one of the nearby towns, and it's fun. It's primarily geared towards the younger kids. You get to go in the spirit and the theme of Star Wars. You do some crafts and stuff, all Star Wars themed, and it's all pretty cool because the kids are wearing their Jedi outfits and masks, and they've got swimming pool noodles cut up into lightsabers. And so it was a nice day at basically a park, and it was a nice day to spend. The kids just ran around on the grass and whacked inflatables with their fake lightsabers. Tons of kids just whacking away at stuff, and I was blowing bubbles in the air, and the kids just trying to destroy bubbles with their lightsabers. Good times. Hey everybody, so I'm back. I had to step away. I'm back on road. So those are the two cool things that did as a family, and the one downer that did make an impression on me. And so it's kind of nonstop. You know, I finished a project with my wife and my son where we do this thing. We did this thing for the first time for teacher appreciation. We decorated our daughter's class's door and nearby window to show appreciation to the teacher that the class, really digs her, right? So what we did was like a lot of parents do, they used the Dr. Seuss sort of theme, and we did the door decorated with a massive truffeletry, massive letters that I drew out and cut out that said, the places you can go with Mrs. the teacher's name, right? The big balloon with the stripes, with a basket, and the teacher, a little cutout photograph of the teacher. We had her pose. She had no idea what we were crafting. She knew that we were doing something. Cut out a picture of her and put her in the basket, and the big balloon. The truffeletry trunk is basically a swimming noodle, a pool noodle, those foam noodles split in half lengthwise to give the decoration a bit of depth. And for the top of the truffeletry, if you guys don't know what a truffeletry is, you got to look into Dr. Seuss stories and you'll see what I'm talking about. And the truffle at the top of the trees were these tissue paper pom-poms. So, and on the truffeletry trunk, we had stripes. Basically, used dark duct tape to create the imperfect stripes. So good stuff. The big hot air balloon that the teacher is riding, the stripes themselves are decorated with tissue paper, sort of crumpled up into little wads and pasted, onto the balloon. So in a way, it was sort of like what I imagine a rose parade float to be. You would get all the colored flowers and you would coordinate and line them up so that they display something specific. In this case, it was the stripes on the hot air balloon. Now, the letters, they were approximately 8 inches in height, and they were cut out in Dr. Seuss lettering, if that even makes any sense. And they were highlighted with a nice contrasting color, which is basically black. And and the window we decorated as well. Shorter truffeletry, and there's green landscaping in the background, which is just butcher paper, and the sky is nice and light blue, which is also butcher paper. But on the window piece, we have a couple dozen balloons, practically. Each of the children in the class had a chance to color a balloon for themselves, and each balloon represents his child, and it's all kind of floating up in the air in a similar fashion as the teacher. And and then we have a signpost, with a stake with several colorful boards of a signpost and pointing opposite directions, in alternating. Say things like, who, there, where, everywhere, I don't know, something like that. But that's pretty much the gist of it. Good stuff, and it's fun. And I'll take a picture, I'll share it at some point. And so time to move on to training and running and all that good stuff. Hey everybody, so I'm back, and I went out for a run the other day, and I really do need to put more time in it, some serious time, but for life's reasons I've not been able to get out. Work has been keeping me tied up in meetings and this and that, and I haven't been able to carve out the time in between to get my run on, and I need to figure that out. I need to fix it, but it's been quite a while now. What are we? It's March. We're 3 months past the Lake Chabot 50K, and I only had a small handful of runs. I've been working on my stretching. I've been doing some strength work, that kind of stuff, and I get to do every day a level of short hikes with a heavy backpack, but it's not where I'm out doing an hour plus of a run. But yesterday I decided I was gonna take time. I worked remote and I wasn't feeling good, and I figured maybe I do need to just work out, and hopefully that'll help me feel good. So I went out on a late morning run, and it was around the house, and it ended up being 3 miles, and it was good. I basically ran up a hill to a park, and to a park that had basically a paved loop around a field, an irregular shaped loop, and access to a very small bit of trail, a short climb and descent, and I found my way sort of slightly bushwhacking through some tall grass, because I could see some faint trail that hadn't been kept. So I just sort of plowed through to what looked like were not well-groomed sections of trail, and I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of fun. And as short of a workout it was, I did feel it because I'm out of shape, and so I did that. And as I went on the rest of the day, I thought about the run and thought more that it was not so much about me trying to get a level of exercise so that I can be better prepared for the Ohlone 50K in a couple weeks, because at this point I gotta do some really, really good training and recovery in that short amount of time to actually, but I don't know. It's. I feel pretty late on that whole getting prepared for Ohlone, but I'm still gonna have to do what I can. Like today, I have my gear with me, and I'm gonna try to not get bumped out. Have my run time bumped out because of meetings and stuff, if I can help it. So, yeah, it was not so much about being prepared and fit and whatever. It was more about like a therapy run, right? It was a run that I definitely need to do something to just help get my mind right, get my stress levels down, whatever, And interestingly, moving on, I picked up an audiobook called Running is My Therapy. And it actually was pretty interesting. It covers depression and anxiety, and how running in itself has been proven to help with those things. It goes into things like, what parts of the brain impact mood and this and that, and the hormones, and it goes into therapy, traditional therapy treatments. It goes into medications used for folks with anxiety or depression, and it goes into talking about studies how there are studies that compare the effectiveness of running in dealing with mental health, and also how it performs in conjunction with traditional treatments and pharmaceutical treatments. Pretty interesting stuff. All in all, there's a lot of benefit to your mental health with running, and and exercise in general, running being one of them. And the book also talks about athletes out there who have dealt with their own anxiety or depression, and their perspective on what running does for them. How they've, and also how running can sort of be a crutch, and there's some downside to being obsessive about running, and we're to a point where it becomes your identity, and when you don't, for whatever reason, aren't, or when you're not able to get out on a run, that it actually does the adverse intention of making you feel depressed. When you use running to help with any sort of anxiety, depression, that's wonderful. And then you just kind of go crazy with it, and then the moment you're not able to do it, you get depressed because of that. It's like it's things to look out for, things to think about. But it was an interesting book. I wasn't counting on it touching on anything ultra related, but it does. It mentions Rob Krar a lot, and if you guys don't know who Rob Krar is, he's a well-known athlete, so that's pretty cool. I'm not gonna do a whole book report on it. I actually want to re-listen to it. But here's the interesting thing, right? As I pay attention to more on things on depression and anxiety, right? And right now we're in the middle of May, and it's Mental Health Awareness Month or something like that, here or there, wherever you are. So it's, you're going to see more and more sort of things around it. Funny, like Burger King put out an ad for mental health awareness about real meal deals, and it's sort of like, you're not going to have a happy meal because you shouldn't have to be told how to feel, but our real meal deals allows you to feel the way you want to feel. So they have meals that are like don't give a fuck meal, salty meal, sad meal. You get the picture. Anyways, so as I pay attention to more and more about mental health, it gets me thinking about myself and how I feel and how I'm doing, and it's either I'm becoming more sensitive to whether how I feel, more self-awareness, or I'm just getting sick in my own way. So it kind of worries me. It's like I just want to avoid the topic because I don't want to think about it, because when I think about it, I sort of feel depressed myself, But I think that's just an interesting thing that I'm kind of feeling and thinking about. But yeah. So, bottom line, I'm signed up for the Ohlone 50K, and I'm anticipating it to be a hot one and a tough one. And so I'm trying to wrap my head around, having done it once, knowing the type of work that's going to have to go through, I'm going to have to put to complete it. Just try and get in a decent amount of run fitness, so that I'm not completely out of whack when I start. So yeah. And check out that book if you are into audiobooks. I resubscribed to my Audible account because I picked up David Goggins' book, You Can't Hurt Me. This was months ago. And then I never turned off the subscription. And, I earned credits for the past few months. And then I shut it, I was like, I need to shut this thing down because I don't want to just accumulate audio credits and not use it. So before I canceled the membership, I had to redeem the credits because from what I read, it sounds like you lose your credits if you cancel, which is kind of like, I just paid money into it and now you're going to just take it away just because I canceled a membership? How dare you? So I quickly just kind of scanned through the library of things that I could buy. I picked up Running is My Therapy. I picked up something about, 12 things that you need to think about, or in life, and then something else I can't remember. But yeah, so far that one about the 12 things that you gotta know in life, it's kind of boring. Sucks, but I'm gonna have to plow through it. And it's a long audiobook. Maybe it's something that I'm just gonna have to get bored through during the long run Ohlone. I'll have to just make sure I can figure out how to load it on my iPod Shuffle and know how to access it, because last time I struggled with that during the Lake Chabot. Dummy. Yeah. I think that's all I got for now. I'm sort of winding down, I guess, or just feeling down. I don't know, but it's the last month of the school year for the kids, and it'll be all done, and it'll be summer for them, and I have to do some major flexing at work, and I already talked to the big boss about summer plans, and my need for some serious flexibility, because the kids aren't in summer programs. Because if you are not a parent, you are yet a parent, and you are unaware, and you have a goal in life to have multiple kids, which is wonderful, which is great. No one teaches you about the logistics and the costs around taking care of your kids and getting them to where they need to be. Summer camps here, easily $300 a week per kid. I have 3 kids. My wife and I, 3 kids, right? And so that's easily $1,000 a week for the 10-12 weeks of summer. That's, and we're not, living in the age of when I grew up back on a small island of Guam, where it was just basically, I literally lived in a village, and I was around aunts and uncles and cousins and stuff, and we lived in next door to each other, and we could just take care of one another. And we're not in that age, and we can't just it's summertime, take the kids to the
to grandma and grandpa's or to uncle and auntie's for while mommy and daddy go to work, unfortunately. So, going to have to do some serious flexible working arrangements to make sure the kids are not abandoned, and on occasion have them make a trip into the city so that they could be somewhat supervised while the parent, namely me, gets to do work stuff. Yeah, bummer, painful, and it's stressful, And if you're a young parent, and your spouse is on leave, maternity, paternity, and the child is very young, you're not thinking about that stuff because you're worried about just feeding and napping and changings. And at some point, you at least here you when the kid gets older to attend public school, you figure out, like over here there's AM and PM classes for pre-K, which is also the TK, and there's also kindergarten, and that itself takes its toll on the parent who is used to getting into the office at a certain time and is expected to get into the office at a certain time, but the drop-offs for school kind of not make that impossible. So especially you young workers who are single and don't have any kids and you're still trying to figure out your career and your way in life, right? You may look at the much older coworker who has kids and wonder like, wow, that person is a loser because they're having to come in later because they have to do, I feel sorry for them, they have to do kid drop-offs and kid pickups, I hope you guys don't think that way, Don't think any less of your colleague who's a parent, has a kid or kids, and has to arrive late or leave late to do those things, because that doesn't make them any less of a colleague. As a matter of fact, especially if you have the ability to work remote, you can be sure that they're leveraging the remote capabilities to pick up where they left off, right? It's there's actually more involved with being a parent and a full-time working parent, because you can't, when you don't have kids, right, you go to work, you commit your time and energy to do the job, and then hopefully at some point you go home, your apartment or whatever, and you shut down and you enjoy whatever you enjoy. There's nothing else, right? No other responsibility, right? But then when you're a parent, it's a different ball game. The start of the day is not a rat race, but it's hectic, getting not just yourself but everybody else ready. And getting everybody to where they need to be so that you can be where you need to be to work. Then at the end of the day, it just flips around and it sort of wraps up. You get back to where you leave work, you collect the kids, you make sure that homeworks are done, you make sure meals are done, and you make sure everyone's, takes a bath and gets into PJs and goes to bed on time, only to do it all over again throughout the week. And then when you think about it from a kid's perspective, right? Kids will only get to spend maybe at most a short few hours with family members, because it's a race at the morning and it's a race at the end. And if all we had were work days, I wouldn't know my spouse, I wouldn't know my kids, and our kids wouldn't know us, because most of our day is taken up by school and work. And And it's sad, right? You know, my wife and I, we talk about how the kids are growing up too fast, and we wish that we could spend more time with them. At the same time, you know, sometimes I feel like if I spend so much time with the kids, I just drive myself nuts and I need a break. So, yeah, that's that. That went a whole different direction. I don't even know how I got there, but I'm going to leave you with that. You know, family's important, play is important, exercise is important. You know, I haven't talked about NSNG for a while, but, you know, I've signed up for the MAID, you know, no fuck ups, you know, no life into living event, which is, you know, be NSNG. And as far as I'm concerned, you know, I'm still messing up, but, you know, it's not like I'm going out for a big old bowl of pasta and I'm going out to like Subways and ordering a Subway sandwich or, you know, any of that stuff. It's like I'm still having a bit of rice now and then, and that's pretty much it. But yeah, and I'm still able to fit in my clothes. I can stand to be optimized with my nutrition, not for so much for the workout or the exercise, but just for life in general. So that's pretty cool that you know, I'm not utterly bloated and not able to fit into my clothes. Right? So even though I'm not my lightest while NSNG, I'm good, right? So that's interesting because for folks who are new in the NSNG lifestyle, the no sugar, no grains lifestyle, they're going to witness, you know, with their successes that they get pretty light in their weight, you know, and I have focused on how light can I get, and I think I went down to 138, 135, 134, right? Pretty light. You know, I'm 5'6", I'm not a giant. And, you know, then, and that was a surprise because I always viewed 140 as my ideal weight. So you sort of don't know what your ideal weight is until, you know, things sort of settle off. And, you know, over the years, after years and years of just like going through the losses and the weight losses, you know, I eased up and, you know, started to feel invincible and like I could just ease up and I'll be good. But then you ease up for too much for too long, then it does bounce back. And, you know, I'm right now, I think this past 12 months have been the worst 12 months as far as weight goes because I'm at 150, right? So where does that, so at my heaviest I was 170 something, and that was before NSNG, and you know, that was a problem, clearly a problem. And so I'm far from 170. I'm like upper 140. I still tap the 150 number, and you know, and right now it's sort of like I'm focusing on more just trying to feel good, you know, mentally, through exercise, through stretching, through meditation type stuff, and doing things that are enjoyable. Like last night, you know, before sunset, I barbecued. I barbecued for the family, played some music, grilled, you know, and the family ate out the backyard on, you know, we have a picnic table, you know, and just had a meal together, and that was fun. So yeah, so it's not sort of fixating and being fanatic about, oh my God, I can't have that, that's, you know, but I know that I can't be fully off because part of me feeling better is also being better with my nutrition and all that. So anyways, I'm now I had to throw in a little bit of NSNG kind of conversation because I haven't talked about it a whole lot. It's sort of like at the beginning of the podcast, I try to have those topics talked about, nutrition and health so much around NSNG. And then I figure, like, I've said all I have to say. I don't want to repeat myself. So for a long time, I just I touched on it, but then not really talked a whole lot about it. And as a matter of fact, the few times I've had Vinny on, I never drilled him. I never talked to him about, tell me, how did you come up with NSNG? What is NSNG? It's because, we're like, on the time of those conversations, we already know what it's all about. I mean, he's lived it for a long time, and I've learned about it for several years. And for us to be like, hey, so tell me about it, kind of like, we don't really think about the audience, unfortunately. At least I don't. I'm like, I don't want to spend Vinny's time talking about stuff, that he knows that I know. So we talk about other things like, Hollywood and money and things of that nature, But yeah, I was like, I had the guy on and years ago, and I never talked about it. So well, that's just how it goes. And in a weird way, I sort of like the way those conversations in the past flowed because it was a break for him, And to think that him spending time talking with me on my silly podcast about other things, right? Like, cool. It's a break for him, and I'm happy to facilitate a break from him having to repeat stuff. Anyways, I'm just rambling. So that should be good. I don't know if you guys can hear that jackhammer in the background. I need to get some funds out of the fund machine, and so that we can enroll the kids into what's called a parents' night out, the after-school center that the kids go to. They do this every now and then, where you basically pick up your kids after the after-school time, make sure they have dinner, and then you bring them back early that evening, and they're basically going to be babysitting for several hours so that me and my wife and other parents can have just free time without kids, having what's called, basically what it's called, a parents' night out. So we'll do that. So yeah, thanks guys for tuning in, and catch you on the next one, next update, next podcast. And if you guys ever go to the website, I apologize that I think I'm like 20 episodes, I don't know, 50 or so episodes out, not up to date. So the episode page that you see on the website is far from where we are as far as episode numbers, because that fun work, that once fun work, has now become just another thing for me to do, and I'm not. I right now don't have the capacity to tackle that, but I will. I apologize, but you could still go to the podcast Libsyn page and catch the updates there at ruelsrunning.libsyn.com. So I'm bad about that, but it is what it is. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Remember to hug your friends, hug your family, eat something delicious, and run something. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Ruel's Running Podcast with Ruel. If you like what you just heard, share it with your friends and your enemies. Also, be sure to check out the site over at ruelsrunning.com. This has been another Coffee with Heavy Cream production. Join us next time for another silly show of Ruel's Running Podcast.